Before we start, just a quick reminder to hit that subscribe button. Only 2% are subscribed at 1,000 subscribers. I'll be posting a special video. My hand was still on the railing when Jess yanked my wrist. Her nails dug in like she needed proof I was there. Across the courtyard, Talia lifted two fingers in a casual wave. Jess leaned close and whispered, "Do you enjoy that?" "I'm Evan, I'm 29, and I hated how small I felt." I tried to laugh like it was nothing, but it sounded wrong. Jess kept her grip, like laughter was an admission. Talia's smile faded, and she turned back inside fast. Jess marched me indoors and shut the door too hard. "Don't do that again," her voice was flat and sharp. I asked what I did, like I was confused on purpose. She stared at my face like she was weighing it. "The thing is, Talia had talked to us last week. Not in some flirty way, just blunt and friendly. She mentioned she and her boyfriend were open and shrugged." Jess nodded too fast, like she was collecting data. Tonight Jess brought it up again while I grabbed water. "So what do you think about couples who do that?" I stalled and took a sip that felt way too loud. Jess watched my throat move, like that answered her question. "I don't know, that was my first mistake." Jess tilted her head and smiled with no warmth. "You don't know, or you don't want to admit it." My skin went hot when she said admit like a trap. I tried to pivot and make it about boundaries. "We're fine, why are we even talking about them?" Jess tapped her nails against the counter, slow and mean. "Because you looked happy out there." Her eyes didn't blink. I hated myself for getting defensive. I said I waved, "That's not a crime." Jess scoffed and stepped closer, almost chest to chest. "Don't make me the jealous girlfriend," she dared me to answer. "Are you jealous?" I asked, and I regretted it instantly. Jess laughed once, then stopped like it tasted bad. She turned away and muttered, "It's not about jealousy." Then she added, "It's about options," and my stomach flipped. She started pacing and pointing at invisible things in the air. "You know what I respect," she snapped her fingers, "honesty." I asked what she meant, and she waved me off. "Never mind," her voice went soft, and that scared me more. Jess left the room and came back with her phone in hand. She held it tight, screen facing her like a secret. "I'm going to take a shower," she said, too casual. Her thumb hovered over the screen, like she was choosing a lock. When the bathroom door closed, I heard the water start. Her phone sat on the counter, face up, buzzing once. I stared at it like it was a live wire. Then it buzzed again, and a name lit up I didn't know. I told myself to look away, and I failed. A preview flashed with a heart, then a wink. My hand moved before my brain caught up to it. The screen unlocked with her face, and I felt my chest drop. I didn't even scroll far, and it was already bad. A chat thread sat open, recent, and way too familiar. My pulse hammered so hard I heard it in my teeth. Behind me, the shower cut off, and the bathroom door clicked. S burst out of the bathroom with wet hair and hard eyes. Her gaze locked on the screen in my palm. "What are you doing?" Her words came out clipped. I tried to set it down, and she lunged for it. She snatched it so fast my fingers slapped air. "You went through my stuff," she pointed at my chest. I opened my mouth, then shut it again. My silence turned into her evidence right there. I saw a pop-up, my voice sounded thin. Jess rolled her eyes and stepped closer. "So you grabbed it," she tapped her temple like I was slow. Then she smiled, and it was the wrong kind. I should have walked away in that moment. Instead, I tried to calm it down like a coward. I said it looked weird, and I felt weird. Jess's jaw set like she heard a confession. She held the screen to her chest like a shield. "You don't trust me," she let the words hang heavy. I said trust was not the issue, and she cut me off. "Then why are you shaking?" Her stare pinned me. I hated that she was right about my hands. I hated more that she looked pleased by it. She slid past me and started pacing in short bursts. "Congratulations," her laugh snapped like a rubber band. She accused me of spying, then acted injured by it. I tried to explain the heart emojis, and she waved me away. "You saw nothing," she made it sound final. Then she asked a question that made my throat go dry. "Do you think I'm like Talia?" Jess leaned on the sink. I told her no, and she made a noise of disgust. "That's not an answer," she dragged a towel over her hair. Her tone said I was already failing. I tried to apologize, and it came out wrong. Not for looking, but for the fight. Jess nodded like she won something important. Then she said, "Good, because we need rules," and my stomach turned. She pulled up a notes app and started typing fast. Her thumbs moved like she had practiced this. I asked what rules and she didn't look up. Us rules, she finally met my eyes and I felt TR. Abdi. You're making a list right now, I asked. Jess shrugged like I was behind the times. Adults talk about boundaries, she spoke slow like a lecture. Then she slid the screen toward me, waiting. The first line read like a headline. Transparency, she tapped the word twice. Then she added no jealousy, her mouth twitched at that. I stared at it because it sounded like a threat. I asked where this was coming from and she sighed loud. From your little balcony moment, she made air quotes with 2 fingers. I wanted to argue, but my brain kept replaying that message preview. It felt like I was fighting with one hand tied. Jess kept adding bullet points. No judgment, no guilt, no ownership. She read them out like vows, then watched my face for reactions. It was less a talk and more a test. I tried to stop it with a simple question. Are you asking to open our relationship? Jess's eyes lit up like I offered her dessert. I'm asking if you're mature enough to consider it, she shot back. That line hit me harder than it should have. Part of me wanted to prove I was mature. The other part wanted to run, because the timing was insane. Jess saw the hesitation and leaned in. Look, she softened her voice and touched my arm. For now we just talk, her nails pressed through my sleeve. Then she added, but you agree we can explore, right? Her touch felt like a leash. I asked what explore meant and she dodged it. Meeting people, she said it too casually. I asked if she already had someone in mind. Jess blinked once then smiled like a coin flip. Does it matter? She tilted her head. I said yes and she clapped her hands once. There it is, she pointed like she caught me lying. Jealousy, she said the word like a diagnosis. I felt my face heat with embarrassment. I said I wasn't jealous, I was confused. Jess made a face like confusion was weakness. Then she did something slick, she flipped it back on me. If you're innocent, unlock your messages, she crossed her arms. I stared at her because my messages were boring. I handed her my phone without thinking. Jess scrolled fast, too fast, like she wanted to find anything. She found nothing, and her disappointment flashed for half a second. Then she tossed my phone onto the couch like trash. See, she smiled again, this is why I'm the honest one. I wanted to scream but I swallowed it. Jess ended the talk with a final swipe of her finger. She saved the list under a title that made me flinch. Ground Rules, she read it aloud like it was cute. The name stuck in my head like a splinter. Later she acted normal, which was the cruelest part. She hummed while she moved around the apartment. Every few minutes she checked her screen and angled it away. That tiny angle felt louder than yelling. I tried to sleep but my mind kept looping. You know that feeling when your brain refuses to shut up. I kept telling myself I misread it. Then her device chimed again and I sat up. I shouldn't have touched anything again. I knew it would make me the villain in her story. But my body moved anyway, like it had its own plan. I hate admitting that part even now. She had a second device synced to the same account. It lit up on the coffee table with the same notification style. I picked it up and my hands went steady, which scared me. Steady meant I was ready for bad news. A group thread sat open at the top. The title matched the list she wrote earlier. Ground Rules, I felt my pulse jump at the exact words. It was not a note, it was a conversation. There were names I didn't recognize and avatars I didn't want. The messages were blunt and eager, like a marketplace. Someone asked what her partner knew, and Jess replied fast. She's planning this, my brain whispered, and I kept reading. Jess wrote like a different person in that chat. Confident, pushy, almost playful in a sharp way. She called me primary in one line like I was a label. That single word made my jaw lock. A stranger asked for pictures. Jess answered with sure and a timestamp from days ago. I scrolled 1 inch and saw a blurred preview load. My throat tightened because it was clearly her. I stopped scrolling like my finger hit a hot stove. I stared at the screen until my eyes watered. Then I heard the bedroom door creak behind me. Jess's shadow stretched into the room and I didn't move. I left the apartment before Jess woke up fully. My shoes were on the wrong feet at first, that kind of morning. I fixed them then kept going like it mattered. I just needed air and a reason not to scream yet. Outside I saw Talia near the mailboxes. She froze when she noticed me like she got caught. I lifted a hand anyway, then let it drop fast. Her mouth opened then shut, and that said plenty. Hey, my voice came out rough. Talia looked past me toward my door, then back. You okay? Her question landed like she already knew. I nodded. Too fast, and she flinched at that. I tried to keep it normal, like a grown man. Jess has been weird about you. I hated that word. Talia's shoulders tightened, and she sucked in a quick breath. Yeah, she looked down, and that yeah had weight. I stepped closer, but not too close. Did something happen between you two? I asked. Talia's eyes darted around the courtyard like cameras existed. Then she whispered, not between us, between her and my relationship. I felt my jaw clench without permission. Talia rubbed her thumb over a key ring, fast and nervous. Just ask me questions, she said, then stopped mid-thought. The pause made my skin prickle. What kind of questions? I pushed. Talia gave me a look like she weighed the damage. Personal ones, she shook her head once. Like she was shopping for a plan, she added, and my stomach sank. I wanted to believe Talia misunderstood. I wanted that so bad I almost laughed at myself. Jess doesn't do plans like that, I said, defending her on reflex. Talia's eyebrows rose, and I felt stupid instantly. She took a step back and lowered her voice. I didn't want to get involved, her words came out careful. But she made it my problem. Talia's jaw tightened hard. Then she asked, did she tell you we talked? No, that came out sharp. Talia nodded like she expected it. She told me you were curious, she made air quotes with 2 fingers. That detail hit me like a slap because it was so specific. I swallowed and tried to keep my tone steady. What did she want from you? I asked. Talia didn't answer right away, and that delay felt brutal. Then she said it plain and quiet, she wanted in. My brain did that thing where it refuses to process. In like friends? I asked, because denial is automatic. Talia's face twisted with discomfort. Not friends, she said, and her eyes didn't leave mine. I felt heat crawl up my neck. So she tried to join you and your boyfriend. Talia nodded once, quick and firm. And she didn't take no well, she added like she still heard it. I laughed, but it came out ugly. Jess would never do that, I lied again, even after everything. Talia held up a hand like she needed to stop me. I have proof, she said, and I hated how relieved I felt. Talia pulled out her phone and unlocked it. She angled it so I could see, then hesitated. You're not going to blow up on me, right? I nodded, and I already knew I might. She showed me a chat thread with Jess's name on top. The messages were blunt, like there was no shame left. Jess asked if they could talk about boundaries over drinks. Then she wrote, I can be discreet, he doesn't need details yet. My throat went tight and I had to breathe through my nose. Talia scrolled a little, then stopped on the next part. Jess wrote, I'm not like other girlfriends, I can handle open. Seeing Jess brag like that made my stomach roll. Talia's finger hovered over the screen like it burned. She kept comparing herself to me, Talia muttered. She kept saying you were safe and she needed more. That word safe didn't feel like a compliment anymore. I wanted to snatch the phone and read every line. Instead, I forced myself to stay still, like that proved control. Talia scrolled again and landed on a message that made my chest clench. Jess wrote, he'll agree once I show it works. There it was, me, reduced to a future yes. I felt embarrassed, then angry at myself for being embarrassed. Have you ever realized you were a role in someone else's script? That's what that line did, and it did it fast. Talia locked her phone and slipped it back into her pocket. I shut it down, she said, voice tight. I told her I won't pull a neighbor into my life. Then she added she got mad, and I could picture it too clearly. I asked what mad looked like. Talia made a small sound, like she hated remembering. She called me smug, Talia's lips pressed into a thin line. She said I was lucky because I had options, and her eyes hardened. I nodded like I understood, but I didn't. Jess had options too, she just wanted permission to use them. I felt my face twist, and I wiped my palm on my jeans. Talia watched me like she expected me to bolt. You should talk to her, Talia said, then shook her head. Actually, you should protect yourself first. That sentence made my stomach drop because it sounded practiced. Protect myself from what? I asked, and my voice cracked. Talia didn't answer directly, which scared me more. She's been talking like you're already on board, she said. Like she can sell it as your idea. Then she leaned closer and whispered, "People believe the confident one." I felt a cold weight settle behind my ribs. Jess wasn't just curious, she was recruiting. I wanted to go back upstairs and demand her phone again. Instead, I stood there stuck because my next move felt dangerous. Talia took a step away, like she needed distance. Own the mess. "I'm sorry," she said, and her eyes looked honest. I nodded, even though my pride wanted to blame someone. Then my apartment door opened upstairs, and I heard Jess's voice call my name. Jess leaned over the railing and snapped my name like a whip. I looked up and she was already watching the courtyard. Her gaze slid to Talia, then back to me. Her smile showed teeth and it dared me to move. I walked upstairs with my legs feeling borrowed. Jess held the door open, polite in a hostile way. "Where were you?" She blocked the frame with her shoulder. I stepped inside anyway because backing up felt worse. She shut the door and faced me like a judge. I could still hear Talia's warning in my head. Jess glanced at my hands like she expected something hidden. "Did you go talk to her?" The question landed sharp. I didn't answer fast enough and Jess noticed. She exhaled hard and crossed her arms. "Wow," she dragged the word out like I betrayed her. That act almost worked on me, which is embarrassing. I pulled my phone out and set it on the table. "I know you messaged her." My voice came out steadier than I felt. Jess blinked once, then laughed like it was cute. "Are you serious right now?" Her laugh made my jaw tighten. I slid it closer and showed the screenshot Talia sent. Jess's eyes flicked over it, then she looked at me. Her face didn't break, which scared me more than anger. She lifted her chin and asked, "So you're teaming up now?" I tried to keep it simple, like a normal person. "You told her I was curious." I tapped the screen. Jess shrugged, casual on purpose. "Well, were you?" She waited like she wanted me to slip. That question made me see the pattern too clearly. She wasn't arguing facts, she was steering reactions. I said, "Stop dodging," and my voice cracked anyway. Jess smirked because cracks are what she hunted. She walked around me and reached for my phone. I moved it away and her eyes flashed hot. "You don't get to control information," she snapped. I almost laughed at the irony, and it tasted bitter. I asked about the line she sent Talia. "He'll agree once I show it works," I said, each word slow. Jess's mouth twitched, then she rolled her eyes. "It was a figure of speech," she shot back too fast. I stared at her because that excuse was garbage. Jess paced a short loop, then stopped right in front of me. "Why are you acting like I cheated?" She jabbed a finger toward my chest. The question tried to rewrite the whole room. "I saw the group chat," I said, and her face changed. Not guilt, something colder, like annoyance. Her lips parted then closed, like she recalculated. "You went looking again," she said quietly, and it sounded like a verdict. I nodded and shame hit hard and late. "Yeah, I did it, and I hate that I did." But she didn't deny the messages, not even once. Jess stepped closer and whispered, "You just proved my point," like a knife. "What point?" I asked, and my voice went thin. Jess tilted her head and softened her eyes. "That you're scared of me having choices." She spread her hands wide. It sounded rehearsed, and I hated how smooth it was. I asked her one simple thing. "Did anything happen with anyone?" I kept my eyes on her. Jess's gaze slid away for half a second. That half second told me more than any confession. She scoffed and tried to walk past me. I moved sideways and cut her off, not proud of that move. Jess stopped short and stared up at me. "You're being intense," she muttered, like intensity was my flaw. I took a breath and tried again, slower. "I'm not signing onto something after you started it." Jess's eyebrows lifted, and her mouth turned sharp. "Started what?" she asked, like she wanted me to accuse out loud. I said the name from the chat that kept popping up. "Mark." The word left my mouth and the air changed. Jess's eyes widened, then narrowed into anger. "How do you even know that?" Her voice rose fast. I didn't answer because any answer helped her. Jess shook her head and gave a short laugh. "He's nothing." She waved a hand like she could erase him. Then she added, "It was just talk," and she watched my face. I asked her to swear it never crossed a line. Jess opened her mouth, then stopped mid-breath. That pause was loud, and it made my ears ring. She tried again, it only happened once, and she froze. She stared at me like she realized what she said. My stomach turned and I grabbed the table edge. Jess rushed in with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. I meant he asked once, she rushed, and it sounded fake. I felt anger rise, then drop into something heavier. You slipped, I said, and my voice went flat. Jess pressed a palm to her forehead like I exhausted her. Then she switched tactics and her tone went soft. Okay, she held up both hands, okay. I didn't want to hurt you, her eyes got wet on command. I watched her face like it was a performance because it was. S.A. E stepped closer and whispered, I just needed your permission, like that fixed it. Permission for what? I asked and my throat burned. Jess wiped under one eye with a fingertip. For us to evolve, she said like we were a brand. Then she leaned in and added, I thought you'd come around like a bet. I asked if she waited for my answer before doing anything. Jess didn't answer right away, and that silence was my answer. She looked at the floor, then up at me, daring me again. I was careful, she said, and her calm voice made my skin crawl. I grabbed my duffel and started shoving clothes inside. Jess lunged between me and the door, arms spread wide. Stop, her voice sounded calm, which felt unreal. I kept packing anyway because calm from her meant strategy. She kicked the duffel with her foot and tried to tip it. I caught it and the motion made my hands shake again. Jess stared at my hands like she caused it on purpose. You're acting like I stabbed you, she scoffed, then watched me flinch. I pointed at her and tried to keep my words clean. You lied, you ran a whole thing behind my back. Jess lifted her brows and shrugged like I was dramatic. It wasn't behind your back, her smile came back thin and pleased. She stepped closer and lowered her voice like a secret. I was setting us up for success, she tapped her chest twice. I almost laughed and it came out sharp and ugly. Success was her word for damage, and she said it like a prize. I moved toward the door and she slid with me. You can't just leave, she planted her feet chin high. I asked why and she answered without blinking. Because you're my partner, the word sounded like a claim. I tried the gentle route and I hate that I tried it. Please move, I held my hands out, palms open. Jess shook her head slowly, like she was disappointed in me. You always do this, she sighed like she found my flaw at last. You always run when things get real, she leaned on the wall. I stared at her because the audacity almost impressed me. She kept going, voice smooth and steady. You want safety, I want growth, her eyes dared me to argue. I took a breath and forced myself to ask one thing. Did you sleep with Mark? The question felt like swallowing glass. Jess's face twitched, then she rolled her eyes hard. You're obsessed with that guy, she dodged it so fast I felt dizzy. I stepped back and shook my head. Answer it, I hated how flat my voice sounded. Jess crossed her arms and leaned forward. Why should I? Her tone made it clear she enjoyed the leverage. That was the moment something in me went cold. Not angry cold, done cold. I grabbed my keys from the table and slipped them in my pocket. Jess watched the keys like they were a weapon. She followed me into the kitchen and blocked my path again. You're going to ruin everything over a misunderstanding. I pointed toward her tablet on the counter. It's not a misunderstanding, my finger hovered and she tensed. Jess snapped her hand over the tablet like a lid. You don't get to keep invading me. I nodded once because yeah, that part was true. Then I said you don't get to recruit people using me, and she blinked. Her expression shifted fast, almost annoyed. Recruit, she repeated it like I used a weird word. Then she laughed and tapped her temple again. You make things sound sinister when you're scared, she whispered. I reached for the tablet and she slapped my wrist. The sting made my eyes water, which pissed me off. She saw it and looked satisfied for a second. See, she nodded like she proved something important. I snatched the tablet anyway, and I'm not proud of that. Jess grabbed my arm with both hands and tried to pull it back. We struggled in silence, like a couple in a bad movie. Then the screen lit up and Jess went still. A notification banner popped up with a profile picture. I didn't recognize the face, but the message was clear enough. Is your boyfriend joining tonight or just watching? Jess's grip loosened and I felt my skin crawl. I stared at her, then at the screen again. Jess swallowed hard and tried to laugh it off. That's not what it looks like, her voice cracked and she hated it. I didn't answer because any answer would feed the spin. I unlocked the tablet with a passcode I never knew before. Saying that out loud still makes me feel gross. But the code worked on the first try because of course it did. Jess froze behind me, and I felt her breath on my neck. The chat list opened, and I scrolled without thinking. Names, threads, dates that did not match her story. Jess reached around me and tried to hit the home button. I moved my shoulder and she hissed through her teeth. One thread had a photo preview half loaded. I tapped it and my heart hit my ribs hard. It was her selfie, but it wasn't just her. My face was there too, cropped like a prop. I stared at it until my eyes burned. Jacint epped in front of me and held out her hand. Give it, her voice went low and dangerous. I didn't hand it over because I needed to see one more thing. I scrolled up and read the lines under the photo. She called me her primary like I was a setting. Then she wrote, he's shy but he'll warm up. I felt humiliation flood my face and she watched it happen. You used my picture, my voice sounded far away. Jess shrugged like it was a minor detail. It helps them understand the dynamic, she said it like marketing. That was when I realized she sold me to strangers. I set the tablet down and picked up my duffel again. Jess grabbed the strap and yanked, trying to keep it. I pulled back and the strap burned my palm. Let go, my voice came out quiet and she paused. Jess's eyes flicked to my mouth then away. You're seriously leaving me, she spoke slowly like she couldn't believe it. I nodded once because if I spoke I might break. Jess's face hardened, and her next words landed like a punch. You would have liked it, she smiled almost playful. You just needed time, she shrugged like this was inevitable. That smile did something ugly to my insides. It told me she never cared what I wanted, only what I could be used for. I walked to the door and she tried one last block. I stepped around her and she grabbed my sleeve. You're making me the villain, her voice rose sharp and needy. I slipped out of the sleeve and left it hanging in her fist. The hallway felt too quiet after that apartment noise. I took the stairs two at a time because stopping felt unsafe. My phone lit up with a new message and I didn't check it. All I could see was that cropped photo sitting in someone else's chat.